And welcome to this first ever Super League preview show recorded on a Friday night. We decided to mix things up ahead of what they're calling Super Sunday, as all 6 of the top 6 meet each other in crucial games, as well as the rest of us play in important games for ourselves. Tonight, as you can see, I'm joined by Scott of Chudley Cannons. Good evening, Scott.
Evening, guys. Hope you're all well.
And a fellow regular to these new videos that we're doing, Midlothian boss Ian. Good evening, mate. How are you?
Good evening, everybody. I'm fantastic, Faithful. Fantastic.
Right, guys. As I said in the start there, we've got a Super Sunday to look forward to, and we're going to preview the 7 games. I've written a few stats as well, so hopefully there'll be some stuff of interest and debate for you. If we start with the big game of the weekend, it's unquestionably top of the league Ardsley playing 3rd place Midlothian. The form going into it, Ardsley obviously lost last weekend, but we're on that mental winning. Midlothian are currently and officially in the best run of form in the league. Won your last 5. You both share, Ian, I don't know if you're aware, the joint best home record in the league, both of you picking up 12 points so far this season. The pre-match vote, where the fans online were allowed to give their opinion, actually put Midlothian as favourites with 50%, Ardsley 40%, 10% for the draw. How confident are you going into this?
After seeing Hodges' lineup and his formation, I'd say I'm more confident now than what I was before. I was quite fearful of the 3 up top, to be honest with you, but to see that he's went with a kind of similar formation to BTEC-ish, Phoenix. It's with like the one AMC, and his central midfielder being maybe a wee bit weaker than some of the others available in the league. I'm pretty confident, and our away form's been pretty good as well, so we're confident of getting something.
And I'll admit I haven't seen the graphic with their team on it yet, but one player who I assume is on the list is currently leading the way in the average ratings, and someone we've pointed out before as being the reason they're doing so well. Patrick Vieira averaging 8.4 so far this season. Scott, how crucial is he going to be for Ardsley to get a crucial win against one of their top 2 and therefore title rivals?
Yeah, Vieira's going to be absolutely massive. You know, he's been sort of the linchpin in that side this season. Everything that Hodges is trying to do is sort of built around Vieira, and that solid work he does in midfield in front of the 2 centre-backs that have also been crucial for him. I think in terms of Hodges changing shape, I think he just wants to maybe have an extra body in midfield, as we've seen, but also I think he's probably just trying to play around with his forward players just to see if he can squeeze a little bit more out of them. You know, he's won a lot of games 1-0. He's lost last week. I think he's just tweaking that formula up there just to see if he can get them forward players firing. I think Nicky Franco will be a big player in this game. Now he's playing in a hole behind only 2 strikers rather than 3, and there's a lot more space for him to run into. I think that's his best position. I think he could be a real big player.
Someone on the other side, Ian, who I know you've said about time and time again, I know Rox has said about time and time again, and I know I'm going to butcher attempting to say his name. Dujaj has been impeccable.
Dujaj, it really has. For me, he's been my player of the season. He's just so consistent. He's maybe not got the attributes like Cafu, Zambrota and stuff, but you know what you're going to get with him. He's never let us down, and he's been immense for us. He's probably been, I'd say, my best signing. As I say, he's just consistent, bangs with 8s and 9s. I've no worries about whoever he's going to come up against. He's going to do a job for us.
If I could ask you both, I'll start with Scott as you're the neutral in this. I'm really not sure of a prediction going into it. Purely because they're at home, I'm going to say Ardsley nick it by 1. How about yourself?
Look, it's going to be a real tough game to call. Obviously, Ardsley are top for a reason. They've just put a record number of wins together. They've had a little blip, and then just behind them, you've got Ian and Midlothian coming up looking to chase down that win record on an unbelievable run themselves. So, you know, it really is who turns up on the day. I think Vieira and Said are going to be massive. If they can keep sort of Archie back and Ortega quiet, you know, I fancy the slight tweak in Ardsley's system to get a little bit more out the forward play. I'm going to say 2-1 Ardsley, but it's going to be tight. It could go either way.
Before I get your prediction, Ian, something Scott touched on there. Are you looking at that wins record at the minute?
It's been kind of hard to ignore, but to be honest with you, I'd be quite as happy with. I'd be more than happy with like draws. Just unbeaten is a good thing to have in the league. So I think any amount of games winning in a row is some achievement in this league, because it is so difficult. Like, everybody can beat everybody, but it'd be amazing to match or equal or beat the record or whatever. But we're not that bothered as long as we just keep this undefeated run going. That's the most important thing for us.
And again, just before I get Ian's prediction, Scott, looking from an Ardsley perspective, when you've won that many games and you suddenly, that's it, the run's over, you've lost, do you think they've got the character to bounce back?
Yeah, definitely. You don't win that many games and keep that many clean sheets and have that many solid performances and then it just go to shit, you know. I think, you know, momentum and form, especially in this league, is absolutely massive. You know, look at guys like, you know, yourselves and Rob, who have struggled from the start, and it's been a real grind to get going. Whereas Ian started off with a couple of defeats, changed system, turned it around, put a couple of wins together, and they've just kicked on. You know, if you get into a rut of losing 2, 3, 4 games, it's really hard to get out of. But on the flip side of that, when you're winning games, it just becomes a habit.
So before we move on then, Ian, you've said you're confident and you've spoke about Ardsley's tactics. What are your predictions for Sunday?
As I say, I'd be happy with a draw, but I think we might just nick it with the odd goal. Maybe a 1-0 or a 2-1. I think we might just have enough to nick it. But again, I would take a draw more than happily. As Ardsley, the form they've been in, I think a draw would be a good result from there.
Sticking with the teams at the top, Scott, I'm going to move on to 4th place Valen hosting 5th place Palmer next. And just a couple of stats to throw at you before you offer your comments, if I may. The form going into it, Valen unbeaten in their last 3 and have won 3 of their last 5. Palmer obviously have only won 2 of their last 5 and had those 3 losses in a row. But I think everyone kind of agreed they were unlucky. They've got, Palmer, the best discipline in terms of having the fewest amount of yellows and reds of all of the top 6. Do you think that, as small a factor as it may be, could be a factor? The fact that their discipline is so much better. I've not written the number down, which is quite poor of me, but I believe the likes of Valen and possibly Ardsley have got 19 yellows so far this season. I know they were at the top. Palm for Nicos, I think, have only got 9 by comparison at this stage.
Well, yeah, if you're not getting yellow cards, then you're not picking up suspensions, especially in your key positions. You know, the sort of block of 4 that Palmer have played, the 2 centre-backs, 2 CDMs just in front, have been imperative for what they've done this season. And yeah, they lost 3 games in a row, but they were all tight. I think they were all 1-0 as well. And that's sort of been the cornerstone of what they've built on this season. They started off like a train. You know, some people say they've overachieved, but, you know, Macca's got a tune out of them. They were unlucky for a few games, yeah. But yeah, it could potentially definitely be a factor as we go into the second half of the season. You start playing teams in and around you. You know, ultimately you want your best players available. So if they're not picking up bookings, then they're not going to get suspended. So yeah, it could potentially play a factor.
And Ian, looking at Valen, the 2 teams, incidentally, Valen and Panathinaikos, share the joint best defensive record in the league. They've both only conceded 8 goals so far this season. But when you've got Cafu is matching Vieira, averaging an 8.4. Totti is the highest assist maker in the league. He's got 5 so far. Shevchenko, who no one's really talking about, to be fair, is the current top goal scorer with 9. And in the vote, when you consider how much everyone's been raving about Panathinaikos, Valen got 43% of the vote, Panathinaikos only 14%. Can you see them really making a statement of intent on Sunday?
Valent, I think absolutely. For me, that they've went kind of, pardon me, they've kind of went unnoticed. I mean, I think it's again just because last season they were like a train and they were that good. They've been maybe not quite as good, but they're still right there or thereabouts. And I don't think you can ever write Andreas off. They're that good a side that they seem to just be going about things methodically, keeping and picking up points, and they're right in it. I mean, you can't write them off, as I say, but I think Valent are definitely going to be up the very top come the end of the season. And as far as Panathinaikos are concerned, I think they'd be doing well to beat Valent. I think anybody in this league would be doing well to beat Valent, but I think Andreas is definitely going to be up there come the end of the season, 100%.
Before I ask you both your predictions, Scott, something I'm interested in from your perspective. Obviously, as I said, Valent are currently 4th, Panathinaikos currently 5th, and you are in that little bubble of maybe 3 or 4 teams that are harbouring hope still of getting into that top 6. When you see that they are the ones you're chasing, does it worry you that it's not going to happen, or does it make the end reward that much sweeter?
Look, I mean, I don't want to be saying at this stage it's not going to happen because we're halfway through the season. There's no chance of us giving up yet. But that top 6 are imperative, are in unbelievable form. Nearly all of them have put massive runs together. Valent are solid week in, week out, and will beat most on the day. Ardsley have just set a wins record. Midlothian are chasing that wins record. Parma started like a train. Churchtown can put 5 past anybody on any given day. So if anybody outside the top 6 breaks into that, then let me tell you they'll deserve it, because it's going to be, I would say it's unlikely that anybody breaks into that top 6 now. Now, that's not to say the guys chasing should give up or anything like that. We'll keep going till the end. We'll keep trying. We'll keep trying to pick up wins. But, I just think that the strength in depth within the squads and the consistency of the games that they put together is going to make it hard for anybody.
No, I completely agree. Whereas, I'm sure Ian won't mind me saying, the 6th place last year, it was kind of kept going like that between a couple of teams, and it was kind of, some people even described it as Midlothian were the best of a bad bunch to just nick 6th. I'm kind of looking at it as, like you say, anyone who breaks up that 6 that are there now, what a job they've done just to do that, never mind getting in the playoffs. In terms of predictions, I don't think I've ever voted against Valent, but I've just got a sneaky suspicion Panathinaikos might nick this. I'm not sure if Valent are going to stick with that sort of more adventurous attacking formation they've been playing, but I know CMAC was smarting from those 3 defeats, and I think he's firmly focused on the task in hand. So I'm going to say they'll win 2-1. Ian?
I think it was a bit, I don't know, I think Alf will make me say, I think it was a bit of a shock that Alf managed to get a point against Andreas. I think Mac has been doing exceptionally well. I know he had a wee bit of a blip, but he was pretty unfortunate. I just think that Valent are going to, I think that's going to upset Andreas losing the points to Astor. And I'm going to say Valent 2-1, I think.
And Scott?
You've already touched on it, Fife. I think this all comes down to what system Andreas plays. If Andreas goes back to the system that he played majority of last season, started this season with, until he started experimenting with the more attacking formation, if he goes back to his narrow Valent formation, then I think Valent win. I think Parma will struggle to get the wide plays in the game, and I think the only 4 sort of defensive players that they play will struggle against Valent. If Andreas continues to experiment and is a bit more expansive, then it's anybody's game. It could be a score draw. I just think after the defeat last week and the fact that Valent are playing a playoff rival, Andreas will switch it back. So therefore, I'm going to go 2-1 Valent.
Okay. Staying with then the final, the 3rd leg, if you like, of the Super Sunday trio. 2nd place Churchtown hosting 6th place Bolton. Churchtown won the vote. They got 45%. Bolton just 27%. Churchtown as I mentioned before, they're with Midlothian and Ardsley as having the joint best home record in terms of already picking up 12 points. Again, I've mentioned Bolton's discipline record is one of the ones up there as being the worst, particularly in the top six as it is now. And when you read the blog, which I know is purely independent and as unbiased as they come, as you both know, they're being described as having the worst title defence so far in Super League history. Is the pressure, Ian, I'll ask you, is the pressure, do you think, just ramping up a little bit on Bolton? They're in sixth, they're the ones everyone's chasing, they're the defending champions. Is it all sort of just tightening up for them?
I don't know. Ryan will put pressure on myself, obviously, but I had a wee look at last season because I know they started poorly, Bolton, and after 5 games, they had won 1 match and lost 4 last season, Bolton. So I think when you look at it that way, it's maybe not got that much to worry about. I think, again, it's because the other teams are doing that well. He's kind of lost a wee bit of track, but again, I don't think you can write Bolton off. They've got a really, really good squad. He needs to, if he's wanting to keep up with the top 2, if he's going for top 2, he needs to start picking up results. And if he was to go to Churchtown and get a result, that would be absolutely massive. And I'm kind of hoping he does, because we can go top if results kind of go in our favour. So I think I chose him for the win at Churchtown, but it's going to be extremely difficult. It doesn't get much harder than going to Churchtown.
No, absolutely. And Scott, obviously, I've said many times, Churchtown, with the exception of us at the start of the season, obviously, were my tip to win it this year. You've got Van Nistelrooy is the highest averaging striker. Considering everyone says he doesn't have a good Super League track record, he's averaging 8.25 at the moment. They're the top scorers in the league. Everything looks to be on course for them to really make a challenge, but I want to throw something out there that might seem controversial, but I think it could play a factor if things go sour. They have conceded more than almost every team in the league at this point. The only teams who have conceded more are Hooligans, yourselves, Astor, and Dragons. Now, in that, you've got 3 teams chasing a top 6 spot, and 1 team who are only just better than myself and Slot. Do you think, and I hate to throw the cliche term out that keeps being thrown at him, is there a certain tactical naiveness that means he's just thinking we will outscore anybody, and then the defensive issues don't matter? Are they being masked? What do you think?
I don't think it's tactically naive at all. I think, Kieran's got every intention of lining up how he does. I think it's more of a overconfidence / arrogance, if you like. I've said numerous times when I've been on sort of these shows and on the live shows on a Sunday, Churchtown is the squad that I like the most. I think if Kieran just found a system, stuck to it, he could easily put a run together that could equal these sort of runs that Midlothian and Ardsley have been on. But I think he's having a bit of fun. He's enjoying himself. He's very confident. He wants to score goals. He wants to hammer teams. He's coming out on social media and in the blogs and stuff week in, week out saying, I'm going to put 5 past you, I'm going to put 6 past you, we're going to hammer you, blah, blah, blah. He's enjoying himself, So, no, he's not tactically naive at all. I think if he was seriously worried about a game, then, he'd find the right shape to work through it. But, credit to him. He's having a good time and he's scoring goals. Yeah, he's letting goals in, but he's entertaining as well. So, yeah, let him carry on.
Prediction time. Picking up on what you said there, Scott, I really like. I'm going to use the word swagger. When I see the teams he picks, when I see his when he does videos for the blogs, there's like you say, there's an arrogance, there's a confidence, there's a swagger about it. They've won their last 3, which included absolutely dicking us last week. Bolton have lost 3 of their last 5, and for that reason, I'm going to say Churchtown win 4-1. Ian? Again,
it's difficult to see anything other than a Churchtown win, to be honest with you, just with the form from. But I'm thinking at Bolton, if anybody's capable of going and getting a result on their day, it's probably Bolton. I know they've not a great start, but I think this one, however much I want Bolton to win, just purely for our our predicament. I'm going to say it's going to be a score draw, 2-2.
And Scott?
I don't think Churchtown are going to go and put 4 or 5 past Bolton. Yes, they've had an average start, if you like, as defending champions, but they're still in the playoffs. They've still got a solid lineup. They scored 4 past us last week. Yeah, we got it a little bit wrong, but Kieran's playing 1 at the back against the defending champions. His strikers are in form. Torres come in and had a great game last week. I'm gonna say that I think it's going to be 2-2. Churchtown are going to score. Churchtown always score. Sort of Martin always says you need to score 4 to beat Churchtown. I don't think Churchtown are going to get 3. I think it'll be 2-2.
Turn our attention slightly to the other end of the table, just briefly. The fourth game I want to look at is Rock Bottom Sloths, who are now level on points with Devils in 13th. They host 11th placed Hoddesdon. Now, initially when I saw this earlier, it surprised me, but the more I thought about it, the more I didn't. Sloths have won the vote with 44%. Hoddesdon got 22%. Now, the reason it doesn't surprise me is because, A, everyone's been saying for a couple of weeks now, Sloths have been improving and they're getting there. B, Sloths have just won. C, Hoddesdon can't seem to win for love nor money, no matter how many they score. And the fact that if you look at the form, Sloths have won 2 of their last 5. Hods have only won 1 of their last 5. And they're 2 without a win now. I'm going to say it. I can see Sloths getting something, but boy, I hope I'm wrong. Scott, what do you think going into this one?
You're right. Sloths have been teetering on coming good for a number of weeks now. They've changed the system. I think they've sort of been quite... they stuck to the same system for the last 3 or 4 games. And it seems to be working. Like you said, they've got a couple of wins in there. They've also lost a couple, but when they've started so poorly, morale's low, confidence is low. You're not just going to turn X amount of defeats and not scoring any goals into 5 or 6 wins. It's going to take slow progression to get there. I think Sloths are going to win purely based on the fact that Hods have forgot how to win. I think they're the team sort of renowned for being hard to beat, but they just don't score enough goals. They've changed the shape in the last couple of weeks. Sort of brought Eto back in and trying to get the best out of sort of those 3 forward players. But I think Sloths at home are going to be confident, and I think their shape, their formation is going to probably get the better of Hods. I think it's going to be 3-1 to Sloths.
And Ian, just picking up on something Scott said there, it's quite interesting. He's backing Sloths because Hods don't score enough goals, yet Sloths are the lowest scorers in the league. Now, we know the flip side of that is they've got Crespo, who can and will score at any given time. But then equally, again, picking up on something Scott said, Hods have changed their formation, and they had Batistuta and Tagalco both score last weekend. So do you think, and I don't want to talk about the Hods midfield again, I think that's been done to death. Is this purely about whose striker or strikers turn up?
I think so, but it's there's definitely no lack of quality in the strikers. I mean, if you look at, we've got Crespo, Kesman, Batistuta and Shigalko, I think they could conceivably probably play for anybody in the league. So it's definitely not an issue with like lack of quality strikers. But I think Hods, he was so adamant that he just wasn't changing his formation earlier on. Personally, I think he's stuck with that formation he was using far too long, and he just wasn't for changing it. I think he is tinkering a bit now. The formation that Rob's stumbled across, I think, is going to work. I think you've seen improvement. I don't know why he's not getting into Crespo, but I think he's getting moved on in the transfer window, I believe anyway. But I just think Hods have got a solid squad. They should be doing a bit better than what they are, but I think he's suffering for his refusal to change that formation earlier on. And as Scott was touching on with the form, see when you're in a rut, it's a hell of a difficult to get out the rut. And I just think he's suffering for that now, to be honest with you.
And Scott's given his, so if I can press you for a prediction.
I'm going to say it's going to be a close one, but I think it'll be 2-1 to Sloths.
I'm gonna back my boy here, so to speak. And listen, everyone knows I love Rob to death. But purely for A, my own self-interest, and B, because I'd love to see Hoddesdon get back to former glories, I'm going to say they win 2-0 and finally get that win they're looking for. Moving slightly up from Sloths, but hovering around where Hods are, we've got potentially, this is either going to be a cracker or it's going to be dross, as we've got 12th place Dragons hosting 10th place BTEC. We've got the joint worst home record in the league, hosting the team in the worst form in the league with 5 defeats out of 5. Dragons got 50% of the vote. BTEC got 40% of the vote. Give me something to look forward to here, Scott. Is it going to be a classic or is it going to be awful?
No, I don't see it being a classic at all. Neither side are in great form. Both guys are scratching around and looking for a formula that's going to kickstart the season. Dragons look like they'd found something after a really shit start, 4 or 5 games, and they put a couple of results together and looked like they were going to kick on, but they haven't. Ian, I think BTEC have probably been the most spoken about team in these sort of shows over the last few weeks, and the squad they've put together. And I know that Ian's absolutely tearing his hair out, and he sort of put a bit of an emotional video out after the game, how disappointed he was, and he's trying so hard. And I don't see it being a classic at all. I think if Ian lines up with his sort of solid, tried and tested, the formation that he's used most of this season, I don't see Dragons creating a great deal. But then again, I don't see BTEC creating a great deal when they turn the ball over. If Dragons can get a striker in who's going to score goals, they could nick it. But if not, it could be an absolute snooze fest. But I'm going to say it's going to be 0-0. But it could easily be 5-5. Who knows?
I don't believe you're in marketing as a career, which is probably a good thing on that note. If you're going to be the devil on this shoulder, hopefully, Ian, you'll be the angel on this shoulder and say, no, Scott's completely wrong and this is going to be a classic.
Well, I've seen BTEC there. They've abandoned the sort of formation he was using, and he is going for the hour formation, identical to our formation. That's what he's got. I don't know about his arrows, but he's implementing our formation. So I think Ian's problem has been he's just been overthinking it. I mean, you would have to try everything because it's not working, but I think he needs to just take things back, strip it back, straight back to basics. And I think this formation that he's going to use is going to work against the Dragons. So I'm going to say they're going to win 3-1.
I'm obviously, from my position, with the belief that we will eventually at some point pick up some form, you would think I would say a draw would be ideal. And let's be honest, a draw for me would be ideal. However, similar to what's been said, I think you're right. I think Ian possibly does overthink it. I would love to see him do well because he's been the only manager to consistently almost do as bad as me for as long as he's been in there. And he has got a squad that deserves to be higher. So I'm going to say BTEC win this 2-0. My cat just loves being on the camera. Cat loves the Super League. Everyone loves the Super League. Quickly, just talk about my game. We're away to Hooligans this week. We've got the worst away record in the league as well. We've only picked up 2 points on the road. Hooligans are 2 without a win. But they did get 80% of the vote. I only got 10%. Listen, what I did last week was obviously completely wrong, was never going to work. And I know there were certain individual bits which wouldn't have had a massive impact on the result because we got tanked, but it might have had an effect to not let it be a tanking, just a respectable defeat, if you like. I have gone with what I'm calling my Jersey Boy formation for this week, which I know you guys haven't seen yet. But it kind of returns us to the roots from the start of the season when we were a bit tighter in defence. Montero being back helps with that. He is in the squad. Zdane's still injured, however. And if we can, and I know we all say this, if this formation can do what it does in my home save, then it will make us more solid in defence. But I do score goals with it. The only problem is in Ronaldo's injured, but in Cliver, Inzaghi, and Inzaghi, I've got 3 people who have forgotten how to score. I mean, they might as well play for BTEC. I'll start with you this time, Ian. Is this an easy chance for Hooligans to put pressure on the top 6, or can you see me, without knowing the team I've picked, can you see this as a chance for me to just start moving up, looking at BTEC, looking at Dragons, looking at Hoddesdon?
Well, if there was one game, Fifey, that I feel you could probably get a result for, and I know it's a extremely difficult place to go. You know what formation Thiago's going to be using. So if you have been having a fiddle about at home with formations, you should have been able to play against this, and you should have technically been able to beat it or put a formation that's going to at least give it a good go, because he's not going to change it. You know exactly what he's going to do. So if there's any place to go and win, and if you're into having a mess about in home says, I used to do it, but I was overthinking it too much, and I went on my worst run when I was doing that. I was trialing it every week, and I was just playing horrendous. I was overthinking it, but I think if you have had a wee bash, and not too much, as I say, I think you could get a result there, but I don't think you will on this occasion. But again, if there was any place to go, because you know what he's going to use, you can trial it. That would be the place to get something. But if they've just lost 2, they're due a win. They're that inconsistent that I just think Cools are going to edge it. Be close so.
And Scott, I presume in your situation, you're hoping we do you a favour and just take some points off someone that's in that same bubble as you.
I mean, we're not going to talk too much about what we want other people to do. You know, ideally, it's an ideal Sunday for us. You know, if we go out and do our job, the top 6 will all take points off each other. You know, we're trying to look up and not down. You know, we don't care if we finish 6th or 14th. If you finish outside the top 6, then you know, you failed, in my opinion. In terms of the game, Ian's absolutely right in what he says. You know exactly what Hulls are going to come with, and you know that's what we did a couple of weeks ago. We knew what they were going to come with. We changed our shape. We matched them narrow, like for like, and we nicked a win late on. But look, like you said, we don't know what shape you're going to use, Fifey. I hope you've abandoned what you've been using the last couple of weeks. I think you say you have, because you know the bottom half, the defensive half of that shape is something to build on. But that kamikaze attack you were trying was fucking ridiculous. Let's be honest.
I thought people were loving the 5-0-5.
It's great that you've got Montero back, because I don't think you've been great defensively, and I don't think you're blessed with talent back there. I just don't think that your squad is of enough quality right now, and enough players in the right positions. Hulls away is not an easy game. You know, they've lost a couple, or they've dropped points in the last couple of games, but you know, before that they put a few runs together, and they've only been, I think they drew at odds last time, and they lost to us to a last-minute goal. But they've not been hammered. You know, it's very rare that Hulls get hammered. And I just think they've got so much attacking flair and talent that it's going to be hard for you to keep them out. I think they'll probably score at least 2, maybe 3. So I'm going to sort of say home win for me, maybe 3-1.
Well, I mean, needless to say, I'm going to back my boys and say we're going to turn it round. I'm confident we can and we will win. I've seen the warning message come up saying we're running out of time. So I want to quickly talk about the last game, which is yours, Scott, your home game against Astor, 2 teams chasing the top 6. We also wanted to talk about Team of the Week. And Martin gave me some interesting figures to show you with regards to attendances. So what I'm going to do is I'll message you both privately my selection for Team of the Week and see what you guys think. But now you guys were asked to pick yours as well. And I'll put the graphic out in public about attendances and get a bigger discussion with everyone going, because I think you'll find it very interesting. But before the time does run out, Cannons at home to Astor, as I said, both teams chasing top 6. Scott, you're going into its favourites with 50%, Astor 30%. You've both got very similar form as well, so it's hard to judge which way this is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to look at is that we're back at home. We've had 3 away games on the trot now, so we're back at home, so we're glad of that. You know, we've already published our team, and we've sort of done what we did a couple of weeks ago. We played Hulls, and we've gone narrow like for like. We're using the same sort of system as we did at Hulls. Just a word on Alf. I've got a massive amount of respect for Alf. You know, the guy's incredible. His commitment and his will and want to win after all these years is incredible. He's forever trying stuff at home. You know, he's already sort of warned me on Twitter previously that he's got another secret weapon coming in. He's told me not to forget to mention that. So we've got somebody coming in who's been trialling on a home save, who's been averaging 8s and 9s and 10s. So it'll be interesting to see who that is. I think he'll probably go with a similar shape, especially after he's won at Valon last week. We've matched them like for like. But we have to be confident at home. You know, if we want to chase the top 6 down, you know, we need to be winning at home in most home games, especially against sides in the bottom half of the table. So, you know, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tight. 2 narrow formations, I would imagine. It's hard to see Alf playing with any sort of width. I think we'll probably nick it 2-1.
And Ian, briefly, what are you expecting from this one?
I think it's going to be tight. I think if Alf does go with his standard narrow formation, I think Chudley are going to nick this because, again, kind of what Scott was touching on, he kind of done similar against Hulls and he got a victory there. I think that Astor can be so inconsistent, but I think Chudley are just going to edge it 2-1, I think.
Listen, guys, thanks very much again, as always, for joining me. It's good to have 2 regulars. I know Hodgie wanted to come on. I know Alf wanted to come on, but things were in the way. Like I say, I'll message you about Team of the Week, but thank you both for coming on again. Really, really appreciate your support as I try and make these shows a thing. They seem to be getting good feedback. I think you both stand very good chances of winning this weekend, so good luck with that. And I look forward to speaking to you on Sunday. Good luck, guys, and thanks again.
Cheers, Fifey. Cheers, buddy. Good luck.
Cheers.
Good luck, guys.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
So all the viewers, thanks for watching. Enjoy Super Sunday in the Super League. And yeah, keep an eye on the Swindon Devils Twitter, as some interesting figures about attendances will be coming out very shortly, courtesy of Chairman Meyer. Thank you, guys. Good night.